Joey White. I work for Duke Energy. I've got about 11 years experience in the nuclear industry. The last few I've been in processing contractors at Kings Mountain, North Carolina. And over the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to show you guys how to write a requisition to be able to request contractors to your sites. At the end of this, there's no pass-fail, but at the end of this we're going to log on to computers and I'll give you guys a chance to actually create one and go through one and be able to develop one yourself and be comfortable with it. We're going to jump into a quick video here.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win, and the others too. We shall send to the moon 240,000 miles away from the control station in Houston, a giant rocket more than 300 feet tall, the length of this football field, made of new metal alloys, some of which have not yet been invented, capable of standing heat and stresses several times more than have ever been experienced, fitted together with a precision better than the finest watch, carrying all the equipment needed for propulsion, guidance, control, communications, food, and survival on an untried mission to an unknown celestial body, and then return it safely to Earth, re-entering the atmosphere at speeds of over 25,000 miles per hour, causing heat about half that on the temperature of the sun, almost as hot as it is here today, and do all this, and do all this, and do it right, and do it first, before this decade is out, then we must be bold.
Dreams, goals, plans, a vision that a lot of people thought wasn't possible. How does that relate to writing a requisition? Well, a few years ago, Duke Energy, if you were coming in as a contractor and you hadn't been badged at a nuclear facility in the past year, it would take you 2 weeks plus to be able to come through our in-processing facility and get to site. Duke Energy set out with a goal to reduce that to less than 4 days. Just like that speech, we set goals, we come up with a plan, and we're working on accomplishing that, and a lot of people didn't think it would happen. There's a lot going on up here, but what I put this up here for is to show you guys that, one, we do track times, we do keep track of how long it takes to in-process our contractors, but what I want you to focus on is this black line. That's an average for that category of people that haven't been badged within the past year. And you can see in August of last year, we were right around 38 hours per person, and by the end of the year, we got it down to about 27 hours per person. You can see a couple spikes in those averages here, and we'll go into what those are, but the main focus is just so that you can see that we are accomplishing that goal, and this lesson is going to show you guys how you play a part in that. So why are we here? Lately we've had a trend in requisition mistakes. We've had workers waiting at Kings Mountain to get badged, and they wait and they wait, and they finally ask the question, why am I still waiting here? And Access Services says, well, you haven't completed your fit for duty or your PAT, Plant Access Training Mantails. Come to look at their itinerary, and it was never assigned to them because the job sponsor never put it on the requisition. We've seen a a trend, a growing trend of job sponsors using the shotgun approach in picking training. Click, 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 let's give them everything. Versus a strategic approach in planning the work and actually coming up with an idea of what they need to do their job. They're only going to be there 26 days for an outage. They don't need all this training. A lot of this is coming up with a strategic approach. With the downsizing at the end of the year last year, we have a tremendous amount of new job sponsors and brand new roles. You guys have never done this before. So creating a requisition in the software in itself is simple. It's very easy. What the purpose of this today is to get you to think along the lines of like the Kennedy speech. We want you to put some thought into picking the training. We want you to try to plan a better way to do things so that we can meet management expectations of doing things more efficiently and still get you the contractors that you need trained to the level that they need to be. Some recent OE, boom lift and scissor lift. That's driving a JLG and driving the scissor lift. Almost every person coming to Kings Mountain recently has been assigned this training. In all my years of experience, I have not seen too many people actually drive a JLG or a scissor lift. So we shouldn't be assigning everybody this training. In addition to that, last year we came up with a CBT that allows students to be able to work off of these platforms and ride on them without actually being trained to drive them. So in theory, even if everybody needed it and you're working in pairs, how many people would we really need to have this training? Half. And those are each 4-hour courses, so 4 hours each, a lunch, that's pretty much a day's worth of training. Same thing, respirator qualified. We had a unit right before the outage that had to make a containment entry. They couldn't find anyone respirator qualified, so what was the natural response?
Everybody qualified.
Qualify 100% of everybody going to that site. Same thing, respirator requires a physical. We send them to an off-site clinic, we pay for that physical, it takes about a half a day. They come back, they do the NANTEL, they do their fit test. You have almost a day's worth of work. You figure the average contractor, say, makes $40 an hour, the physical's a couple hundred, per diem, mileage. You got $500–600 in doing that training. Kings Mountain processes about 8,000 people a year. 500–600 times 8,000 is 4 million. If you can save a day here or a day there, 4 million here, 4 million there. A friend of mine used to say a few million here, a few million there. At some point, it starts adding up to real money. Asbestos 3. Our Coney site a few years ago used to average about 60 people per outage being asbestos 3 qualified. They found a handful of breakers that have some asbestos containing material in them, and so now they want all electricians, all INC techs, everybody to be asbestos 3 qualified. Asbestos 3 takes another physical. It's 3 days worth of training. The state certified instructor charges $200 per student. So you can see it costs $1,500 to $2,000 to do this. At the end of the outage, Coney got a bill for about $400,000 for asbestos 3 training. So I think we'll see some difference in the upcoming outages. So today, our terminal objective is given information from a plan, project, or task, create a requisition and impact that meets the fleet's expectations in accordance with this skill model job aid. And that job aid is on the Kings Mountain SharePoint. You can reference it at any time. It basically helps you get through the software. Our enabling objectives is going to be how to identify how to properly open a new requisition, accurately select and record the information on the appropriate fields of the initiate requisition page, and identify the appropriate type of training and select that on the skill set page. When you open Impact, this is the screen you'll see. These are active recs at your site that you have open right now with contractors on them. And we want to initiate or open a brand new rec. Mike, looking at that picture, do you know how we would do that?
I'm sorry, I was thinking about something else.
Oh, so we want to open a new rec. Looking at this picture here, can you determine how we would actually open a brand new rec?
Well, you have the big green initiate circle, so I'm guessing that has something to do with it.
Good. Yes. So objective 1, opening a brand new rec. It's as simple as pushing the initiate button. That's going to bring you to this screen. It's going to be blank. I've went ahead and filled it in for you. All of these are drop downs. This first column and second column is more for information. We haven't had a whole lot of problem from those, but they do use, if you put in an outage code here, during the outage they pull reports off of this to be able to track daily head count. So you want to make sure if they're online workers, you use an online code, or outage workers, you're using an outage code. Where we want to focus is on this column over here. You're the job sponsor. Your name should be in that drop down. The job manager, that's not your boss. That's the project manager or whoever has some knowledge of this work that's going on. You as a job sponsor may write recs for electrical, INC, maintenance, but we want that supervisor or somebody that knows a little bit about this work in case we have any questions. You may have respirator on here and somebody shows up and had dental surgery and can't pass a fit test. So we want to be able to call somebody to see, hey, do we need to send him down the road or can he be exempted? And we'll be looking to get a hold of you or that job manager. In processing contact, I gave you guys a handout. There's about 8 deployment specialists at Kings Mountain. We all have different functional areas. This requisition I wrote up here for McGuire Major Projects. Can you guys determine who the in-processing contact would be based on that functional area? You raised? That's correct. Myself. Can everybody find that? So we have our phone numbers on there. We are always willing to help. This plays into a lot. We don't think about human performance tools or anything when we're doing software a lot of times, but we want to keep a good questioning attitude. If there's ever anything in here that you don't understand, it's a lot easier to call us and communicate with us, and we'll walk you through it versus doing a lot of rework or fixing something. So we want to stop when unsure. We want to keep questioning attitude, and a lot of this is communicating with those deployment specialists. If you work at McGuire, you'll be working with me a lot. If you typically handle electricians, I do all the electricians for every site in the fleet. So at the bottom right, when you finish this page, we missed badge sponsor, and that's an important one. A badge sponsor, you see a drop down. If you can't find the person you're looking for, it's probably because he's not a behavioral observation program supervisor in that system that Access has, a BOP supervisor. They have to be qualified BOP supervisor. And the important thing here is when we put people on this rec and we schedule them, the system's going to send him a request that he has to approve. He has to take responsibility for those people coming to site. And he has to go in and approve that. And we get calls all the time from badge sponsors saying, who are these people? I don't know these people. When you fill this out, if you put somebody in there, give them a heads up that, hey, I'm bringing people in, expect this request, and please approve it in a timely manner. So fill this page out. There's a little save button down here. When you save this page, it's going to bring you to this top picture. And you're simply going to hit skill sets, and it's going to bring you to this bottom picture. And you're going to put add skill set. And that's going to pull up this page. It'll come up over, it's an overlay, it's a box that pops up. So in this scenario, we want to bring in 10 electricians. We want at least half of them to have that boom elevated work platform. We talked about, if everybody needs it, theoretically only 50% would. So we want 10 electricians. We want them to have that boom and elevated work platform. So we're going to pick a drop down, contract worker electrical, and that's got every job title you could think of. Welders, riggers. When you pick that category, it's going to populate some common training that they typically need. We're going to pick 6 to 9 years of experience. There's a 10 plus years of experience if you were going to do a supervisor skill set. There's a 0 to 2 years if you were going to bring in like a helper. We said we wanted 10 electricians. Port date to site. Don't pad that for training. That's the actual date that you want them at site. We'll assess them and figure out their training needs and bring them in at an appropriate date. Badge level. You'll have escorted, unescorted. Typically we're going to pick unescorted. Jump up to the little tab that says access areas. If you pick unescorted, you need to assign them access areas. Typically that's going to be protected area, vital areas, maybe the control room. Each site has a different set of access areas. You should know where your people are going to be working and what access they need. Then probably one of the most important things up there is that HR department. That's a list of supervisors. That's who we are going to hire these people into their org chart. So if you put the site VP, he's probably going to be calling me saying, why are these people my direct reports? Also, that's the supervisor that's going to approve timesheets. And if they were to get locked out of their computer or something, they call the help desk wants to send the supervisor a temporary password so they can get back in. So it's very important that the supervisor you pick there is who they're physically working for. Maybe it's that electrical supervisor or that maintenance supervisor. Once we get that done, we come down here to this common training. These guys are going to be working in the turbine building, so I left off rad worker. Just because it populates common training, you do not have to pick all of it. If we were going to have a supervisor for these guys, we would assign them some supervisor stuff, but we just want 10 journeyman electricians. Over here is every course we teach at Kings Mountain. You can see I picked the elevated work platform, and in there as well I picked the boom lift. So that pretty much wraps up creating a requisition. We've got our 10 people, we've got boom, elevated work platform on there. We would hit save. Everybody agree that we've created a good requisition? Accomplished what we wanted? Anybody that doesn't think we created a good requisition? Okay, so what we have here, you're going to come up to here, and this is what it's going to look like. It's going to have that supervisor. It's going to have your training. And if you knew that you picked a respirator, but in that list of training you couldn't find the physical, but you know they need a physical, you can hover over this, and it's going to pop up the exact course that we teach. So if respirator was on here, it would show the physical, the NANTEL, the fit test, the practical, everything. Same thing on our boom and elevated work platform. Prereq for that is fall protection. So if you hover over that, it would pop up fall protection in this course. Even if you hadn't selected fall protection, it's going to bring it in anyway. Contingent worker, we always want to pick that because we want every contract worker to have a basic safety and human performance course. The protected worker, by selecting unescorted, that does not bring in any training. Selecting protected worker brings in that fit for duty NANTEL and that plan access training NANTEL, so it's important to check that. So that's the way we did it. What Kings Mountain sees here is that you need 10 people, but it's going to assign all of them this training. We're going to have to give all 10 of them this training. So we said we want to be more efficient. I want to show you guys a better way to do it. So one way to do it is you could change that number to 5. You could come down here and hit add skill set and duplicate all that and leave this training off. Can you see how that would give you 5 that's going to get the boom and elevated work platform and 5 that wouldn't? That's one way to be more efficient. There's always many ways. One way that I have found in my experience that I think is even more efficient, that's easier, is if you do it just like this. You put the 10 up there, you put the training, you come over here to the notes section, and you hit notes. You're going to put add a note, and you're just going to say ensure half of these guys have this training. And that way when the deployment specialist puts the people on there and assesses them, he can say, well, half of them already have it, so they can go. Or maybe there's some initial people that we know is going to be at Kings Mountain 3 or 4 days anyway, so we're going to assign them that training, versus somebody that's already badged at a site and could roll directly to your site. So it gives us a little bit more flexibility, but it's all about communication. If you just make a little note in there and let the deployment specialist know, that'll help a lot. So reviewing today, we gave you information from a planned project. We want you to be able to create a requisition that meets that skill model job aid. Again, that job aid is found on our website. Identify how to properly open a new requisition. Martin, you remember how we do that? What button we push? Initiate. That first screen, when you open Impact, it's going to have that initiate button. That's how we're going to open a new one. Second, accurately select and record the information in the appropriate fields of that first page. Again, the one that we have the most problem with is that badge sponsor. Making sure that they're aware of who's coming in and that they approve that request that comes to them in a timely manner. The whole thing stops until they do that. We can't send out a personal history questionnaire or anything until they approve that request. And then 3, identify the appropriate training and select on the skill set. Again, we want you guys to concentrate on using a strategic approach, trying to be more efficient and not just going through and checking everything. Any questions? And at this time, we would normally open up our laptops and I'd give you some information and we'd go through a practical exercise and make sure you guys are comfortable with it and understand how to do it and can work through one.
Very good. Okay, so for a plus and a delta on yourself, what are your thoughts?
A plus, I'm getting more comfortable. I'm fairly new to teaching. I'm getting more comfortable up here. I think I'm getting better at it.
Okay,
A delta, I had a little bit more trouble today than I did yesterday working the pointer and going back and forth on some slides and some just technical issues. Probably more of nerves, I guess, than anything. But
So
yesterday it seemed to go a lot smoother technically wise.
yeah, no day is like any other day. All right, let's get some peer feedback. We'll start over with David.
I thought you did a really good job, like knowledgeable on it, and that's great. I think you could have had a little bit more engagement with the students, more questions.
I thought the few questions that you did do were used very well. You caught me in the middle of writing something down, and I had no idea what was going on the screen, and called on me, and it re-engaged me in what you were doing, and I thought that was a very good. I don't know if you saw me that I wasn't paying attention, or it was just the luck that you called me, but it worked to get me back on what I should have been doing. The delta, also I'm questioning. You asked if, well, do you guys think this is a good or a bad example? And then none of us had an answer, and then you never answered it. You know, was it good, was it bad? You said there were more ways to do it more efficiently, but does that really answer, is it good or is it bad? Sure. So it's just kind of put it out there. We could think about it, but what did you think about it?
Yeah, my comment is kind of along the same lines. Were we supposed to be people who were somewhat familiar or not familiar at all with the program?
I guess the majority of the job sponsors started January 1st, and if this was real time, they've been working there, they've had some peer coaching, but they've never had any formal training.
Because I would see little value in asking a question like that if this is the first time we had been exposed to this.
Sure.
Right, so just kind of remember to tailor your questions to what your audience is going to be
Sure.
able to answer.
And I guess in my mind, it didn't work yesterday either, so. But in my mind, by going through the OE in the beginning, saying, you know, we only need theoretically half of these people to be trained, and then saying we're going to bring in 10 electricians, we need half of them to be trained. I was hoping somebody would, you know, put it together that, hey, we're requesting 10 and we're giving the training to all of them. But I can do a better job of trying to explain that.
Well, and like I said, it depends on the experience level of those of us who are sitting here, right?
Sure.
So if you're giving refresher training, then yeah, they should be able to pick up on that. If you're giving initial training, we may or may not be able to pick up on that.
Sure.
Right, so, and that applies to any discipline, that's not just, you know, this particular. I actually think your platform skills are pretty good. If you're, you know, as inexperienced as you say you are, it doesn't really show that much. You move around well, your volume is good, your pace is good, and then like more questions, but again, that kind of relates to what kind of audience we are supposed to be, so, good job.
Good, swing over here.
I thought you established good credibility, you're knowledgeable, you're obviously very familiar with the software and the process and all. Thought that was good video. I like the video at the beginning was kind of cool watching that. I thought it was fun to watch. And how you related it to the purpose of the training. Thought you voice good voice projection. You have good skills up there. Again, orientation. And I think it's got more to do maybe with the room. When you were here, I couldn't see some of the slides. I was trying to look around without, I was the way the room's laid out more than anything. But I thought it was really good. That was the only thing. And I was gonna write something down about more direct questions, but I'm not sure that the content lends itself to that. You said something at the end about, you know, we would open up our laptops and, you know, so I can see this as you'd be going along, maybe creating one as a group. And that's probably what you would do if you have teaching this to a group of job sponsors and you hit the initiate button and actually doing that as you're going along through the training. It was great.
All same positive comments. Your platforming skills are good. I saw some improvements over yesterday. I thought it looked a little smoother, a little cleaner, actually. As far as your comfort levels, I didn't see any nervousness really. Biggest point I was thinking was on that, again, the slides with the boxes all over the
Right.
place. You caught yourself, but you almost moved past the badge sponsor box, and it might help you out to have,
If I layered those in or
if
something.
if you put in little animations to make highlights up here so that you remind yourself and kind of guide yourself through the presentation on the key points you want to discuss as you're moving through.
You explained very clearly each step. You lose confidence, and you used the impactful video at the first slide. I was hooked. And you explained without question for 5 minutes, and just to ask a little more questions.
Thank you.
Joe?
Reason we were here, I thought was excellent, $400,000 bill for excessive training. One site, we have 6, so it's kind of personal. But in lieu of that, you left out that component, but you said yesterday that due to the reorg, recent reorg, you remember that? That was included in yesterday's, and it's an anchor to the audience's experience level. Due to recent reorg, we have a lot of new job sponsors. So that would have given a better perspective. That's it. Good stuff.
Okay, I'm gonna counter you and say it's not all about the money. Don't ever all be about the money. If you got suits in the back or whatever, they're gonna say, no, we wanna hear about lost generation. We wanna hear about health and safety of the public. We wanna hear about resources. So this is a big money topic, but try to temper that a little bit with some of the other stuff that is at risk. You know, about outage duration, whatever. You know, not just the money, but the people part of it, stuff like that. Let's see, what else did I have? I liked your graphics, nice and large. It's really hard to teach computer stuff in the classroom without computers. So I think you did a nice job. Maybe at the beginning say we're going to open up our laptops and really kind of let them know that they should pay attention because they're going to be doing. And when you're back in your natural environment, you probably will have an idea of who's in your classroom and what their area of expertise is before the class, like maybe they sign up a week ahead of time or something like that. So if you can kind of develop a little scenario that'll appeal to them, like for their particular station or their work group or whatever, and use that as well as, you know, whatever other example you have, that might just be something that they would appreciate. Good job.